appLariat, unlocking cloud-native capabilities for your apps through the power of container technology. For more information, email us at info@applariat.com. The application we'll be moving today is a simple airline reservation system that is currently running in AWS EC2 on virtual machines. We'll be using appLariat to move it to Google Container Engine on Kubernetes. Let's log into appLariat to create our GKE cluster. In appLariat, we call these clusters deployment locations, so let's create one. Here's the deployment location creation screen. We'll select GKE and provide a name for our cluster. We'll also select the location policies we'd like to enable, including cluster and application scaling. We can also specify the types of workloads on the cluster. In just a few minutes after clicking Create, your cluster is up and running with monitoring to give you detailed capacity information. Now let's containerize the application. In this case, we'll start from scratch and select the components the application needs from appLariat's extensive library. For our airline app, we need Elasticsearch, RabbitMQ, Redis, Mongo, and WebSphere. For WebSphere, we need to tell appLariat that we'll be building the image from an existing script. Now appLariat takes you through each component so you can configure it. Let's expose Elasticsearch externally. We'll take the default configuration for both RabbitMQ and Redis. For Mongo, we need to change the service name to what WebSphere expects. And for WebSphere, we need to set an environment variable so that WebSphere knows what port it should connect to Mongo on. We also need to expose WebSphere externally because that's how we'll connect to the app's interface. Now we're ready to review the stack configuration we've specified. Let's give our stack a name first, then we'll specify a starting stack version number and an alphanumeric tag. Now we can specify our code artifact for WebSphere to create a release. As you can see, we support a variety of different locations to store your code, config, and data artifacts. Let's specify an alphanumeric tag to identify our release. Now all we have to do is click Create, and appLariat automatically generates a containerized model of the application ready to deploy on our newly created GKE Kubernetes cluster. Now let's deploy our application to GKE. Notice that we can specify the type of workload we'd like deployed, each of which has a different termination policy. We can also select a different deployment location, but in this case we'll deploy to the GKE cluster we just created. Let's specify an alphanumeric tag for our deployment so that we can identify it. Note that since this is a development workload, it's set by policy to terminate in 7 days. We can also specify deployment overrides, including changing the number of instances for each component, but in this case we'll take the defaults. Now appLariat begins the deployment process. As each component is deployed, you'll see the component object pop up with additional information and options. Your app is now fully deployed. Let's take a look at our deployed app now running in Kubernetes on GKE. Let's load some data so that we can run the app. And there you have it, a fully running app now on GKE. With appLariat, you also get complete day 2 management capabilities for your deployed apps. This includes app and cluster scaling and much more. After a few minutes, appLariat begins to collect capacity information for your deployed applications, as you see here. So that's our demo showing how to move an application from AWS AMIs to containers running on Kubernetes in Google Container Engine.